It's been a while since this one came out, so like it's not a new book per se. This was written in 2015, so that was 10 years ago. Oh, that hurts my soul. Wait a second. It's just a good series for like dipping in and out of if you need a palate cleanser or something that doesn't take a lot of brain power, which is kind of what I've been needing. I just feel underwhelmed. I think that's the best word. It's just generally I feel underwhelmed with what's happening at the moment. And so like I'm picking it up very, very sparingly. Well, I'm really glad I read this. Well, I really liked the story that was being told. This is not an enjoyable book. Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with books I want to read before I turn 30, vlog 2. Pina has decided that she needs to play with her toys at the moment, so I really hope that you can hear me and that she's not moving you closer, hopefully. I'm here to do round 2, vlog 2. The last one, I'll leave it linked above if you're curious. I basically read an entire series by Ben Alderson because I had it on my list for a long time. It was also his debut series. This time we are not doing a series, but there is a theme because there was one that I was like, the next vlog, I'm doing this one for sure. And then it just kind of like, I had this idea. So the 3 books that I'm planning for this vlog, this version, are all books that I have given authors 5 stars. So these are all books that I would consider maybe not favorite authors of all time. There's definitely a couple that are favorite authors of all time, but I have previously given these authors a 5-star. So we're going to see if they continue. So the one that really kind of started this idea was The Nightingale by Kristen Hannah. I read The Women at the very beginning of the year. It was my first book, I think, of 2025, and I gave it 5 stars. I'd never read anything by Kristen Hannah, and I loved it. And this one is incredibly hyped. I mean, everybody, I think, on BookTube has read this. It takes place during World War II, France in 1939, and it follows 2 sisters during the war and their different reactions and how they survive this war. I've been told, actually, every single person that I have seen read this book cries. So I expect this one to be incredibly emotional. I'm not sure if this will be the first one I read for this video, but like this is gonna be one that I just know I'm gonna cry during. It's just gonna be an emotional roller coaster, and I'm okay with that. I think I cried during The Women for sure, at a couple of times. But I think this one's just gonna hit more. It's been a while since this one came out, so like it's not a new book per se. This was written in 2015, so that was 10 years ago. Oh, that hurts my soul. Wait a second. So this is the one that started this idea. So I'm hopefully going to get to that one. And then I'm also hopefully going to pick up Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas, which is the sequel to Throne of Glass. Y'all know I love Sarah J. Maas. I've been putting off reading this one. I have no reason why. I just keep putting it on lists and not reading it. So the entire series is on my 30 before 30 list, which I'll leave linked above if you haven't seen that video yet. But I don't think I'm going to get into the entire series before I turn 30, considering I'm turning 30 in 4 months. It's in the summer. So it's not going to happen, but I'd like to make some progress in this series, especially because like everyone says, once you hit like book 3 and 4, then the series really takes off. And so I want to get to that point. You know, like I'm just barely scratching the surface now. I need to continue. So that's the other one. And then the third one is Beautiful Stranger by Christina Lauren, which is the sequel in the Beautiful Bastards series. It's a series of companion almost said novellas. It's a series of companion books. So there's like 4 or 5 full-length novels and then like 4 or 5 different novellas in between those. And so I have read the first book and the first novella. This is the second book. It follows the best friend from the first book. It's smutty romance, contemporary romance. This one says, a charming British playboy, a girl determined to finally live, and a secret liaison revealed in all too vivid color. So it's like best friend, British guy. I'm excited. I wonder if the audiobook I'll have dual narrator because that would be awesome. Anyway, so that's the plan. These are the 3 books that I'm hoping to get to. I've given all these authors 5 stars previously, so that's the vibe we're going in. We're trying to get some 5 stars. My reading mojo has like almost disappeared, so I'm trying to get that back up and running. So hopefully this will do it. I don't think I'll start with this one. I think I'll start with something, maybe this one, because it's real easy to dip in and out of, but that's the vibe. So I'll come back to you when I've started one of these and we can talk about them, but this is my plan. I hope you enjoy whatever this vlog turns into. Let's read some things. I've made it about halfway through Beautiful Stranger, so I'm here to give you some initial thoughts. I am actually a little bit over halfway, actually. I am in chapter 11, exactly 192. So I started this a couple of days ago, and I honestly was really worried going in because I am currently, or I have been for the last like month or two, in a huge romantasy and fantasy vein when it comes to reading. And so I wasn't really sure if throwing a contemporary romance, specifically one that's super smutty, when I'm not really in a smutty mood, in here would be good. But what I am liking about this is that this is what I needed. It's a good palate cleanser. Yes, it's incredibly smutty. Yes, it's really about this like friends with benefit situation that eventually we all know will turn into a relationship. It's about these 2 people, specifically the female Sarah, who are really have been hurt in the past, and them kind of getting over that. I'll tell you what it's about in a second, but that's really the vibe of it. And while this entire series is, I'm pretty sure, this author duo's first like real step into writing, I want to say. I feel like I read that somewhere. It originally came out in 2013. It definitely is just a fun, good time. I could see some people using the term guilty pleasure when it comes to this series. It's just, there's not a lot of substance to it. It's just a lot of smut, which is fine. But there's also enough plot that if you're not if you don't hate smut, but you don't love smut, it still works, if that makes sense. So this book follows our 2 main characters, Max and Sarah. It takes place in New York City. Sarah is the best friend of the main girl, or the main girl in the first book. And she just come out of a really terrible breakup. She was with a guy for like 6 years or something crazy, and he cheated on her like the whole time. And so she's coming out of this really terrible relationship, moving to New York City and getting a new job. The company Ryan Media, which is this whole big Ryan family from the first book, is opening up a new branch in New York City or something like that, and she is the chief financial officer for this company. So she moves to New York City because of that. And then Max is like a venture capitalist at a different company, and he's originally from London, so he's British, and they meet one night in the bar. And they have kind of like a one-off fling situation, and then they keep meeting up. And they kind of create this friends with benefit situation. They meet once a week, always on a Friday, and she is kind of discovering some new things that she enjoys that she never got to try with her previous boyfriend, because he just was all around toxic and just a terrible person. Like, the more we learn about him, the worse he is. So she got really messed up because of that. And I think they had a relatively public relationship, and Max had a previous relationship with like a movie star that kind of ended dramatically. Badly, not so much, but dramatically. And so he's always in the spotlight, and so people are always following him around and call him a playboy, because, you know, every girl that he's with is like someone he's sleeping with, even if it's just a friend. And so like he's got a very public persona, and she does not like that. And so they don't ever go out in public. They don't ever do anything like that. But they do have these moments. What I like about this book is, in a situation like this, you would assume that she would fall first, that she would be the one who wants more. And like, he even expects that when he goes into this relationship. He's like, she's going to be the one who falls first, and I'm going to have to cause the problems. No, actually, she thinks that. She thinks that she's going to fall first. And she doesn't. He does. And she's the one who's like stepping on the brakes and not so sure about everything and wanting to keep things very casual. and the one who's creating all the rules. And even though they are both very clearly starting to have these feelings for one another because of her past, she's very much, no, 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 pump brakes. These are the rules. We must stick to the rules. And so I'm excited to see where we're going to go, because obviously we're going to end with the two of them together. Also, what I liked, sorry, I'm jumping around a lot. Also, what I liked about him as a character is that he, while yes, he doesn't have anything serious and hasn't had anything serious for a while, he is not opposed to having something serious. Like the situation between them, even though it's not a relationship, it's very monogamous. And that is another very clear boundary that she sets early on. And I like that he's very open about the fact that, yes, he's not really had a relationship in a while. He's never felt like the people he's been with in the past wanted that, nor did he want that with them. But he's not opposed to that if it's the right person. It's just he hasn't found the right person to make that move yet. And so I like that from the beginning we have this possibility with him, and it's not a like third act dramatic reveal. So I'm liking it. I like these characters. Again, I don't think this is going to be my next best thing I've ever read. It's just a good series for like dipping in and out of if you need a palate cleanser or something that doesn't take a lot of brain power, which is kind of what I've been needing, because I was kind of in a little bit of a reading slump and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to pick up, and I was in between some stuff and I finished some things that were buddy reads that I had been putting on hold, and I just finally was able to sit down and like just put something on. And so I went with this because I didn't think it was going to take a lot of brain power, which it doesn't, and I like that. I suspect, unless something terrible happens in the last, I don't know, chunk here, it's probably going to be a 4-star. Not the best thing I've ever read, but I'm excited to continue, and this will help me continue with the series and read more things in the series. I do really enjoy this, and I really enjoy these authors. It's interesting because while I said this is, I'm pretty sure, their first step into writing, I've read their significantly more recent stuff, and you can very much see a change in the writing and like how the stories are created. Like the characters are they're developed, they're fine, but the characters in their later books or their more recent books are very developed, and I like that. So it's fun to kind of dive back into their backlogged books and kind of see where they've gone. So those are my updates. I feel like I'm not going to have a lot to say once I finish this book unless something crazy happens, but those are my thoughts. I've started this. I'm halfway through. I suspect I will finish this very quickly because while it is super easy, it's like really quick to get through, and I went through like the first 30 to 40% of this book in one sitting almost, and the first time I picked it up. So it's good. I am enjoying it. This is a good one to start off this video with because I know that like the other books I have planned are going to be heavy. So maybe I should have waited and then I could put this in between those. But either way, I think this is what I needed to kind of kickstart my reading mojo again. I finished Beautiful Stranger today. It's actually the next day. So that was a very quick turnaround. I think this went 3.5 stars. I thought it was going to be a 4-star, but I put it through a co-file system and it was a 3.5, and there wasn't really anything. I kind of bumped it up as high as I felt like I could bump it up, and it still didn't get a 4. So 3.5 is where we're settling, and I feel good about that. I don't really have too many new thoughts. I really liked our couple. I liked all the things I had previously said about them. The kind of like third act breakup issue thing happened in like the very last chapter, and then it was resolved incredibly quickly. So first off, the issue was, I feel like they built up this relationship and then she thought things out of the blue and like didn't, I don't know, it felt wrong for the characters. The reason that they had like their big climactic issue at the end of this book was like it felt incredibly avoidable, and it wasn't like they just weren't talking about their problems. It was like she jumped to conclusions, and it felt like that her character would not have jumped to those conclusions. Yes, she has stuff in the past that like makes relationships hard, but because of how much they built up trust between the two of them. It felt like she just jumped real hard, and it just didn't feel believable. And then, like, again, it resolved incredibly quickly, and everything happened in like the very last chapter, and it was just all of a sudden over. And so the ending, I think, is where it fell apart a little bit for me, because the characters were so strong. I mean, they're not they're fine. They're fine characters, but like they have a lot of elements to them throughout this book, and so I was really rooting for them. And then like the thing that happened, I don't know, it just kind of the thing itself was not the problem, it's how they reacted that felt very out of character, specifically her. It felt very out of character for her. So I am really glad that I read this. I'm curious to see where we're going to go in the future. The next one in the series, there's a couple of novellas before we get to the third full-length novel in the series, so I might pepper some of those in. And the next, like, when I need shorter things to read. But I'm really glad that I read this, and this was like a very good palate cleanser, a very good in between. It kind of got me back into the mojo of reading, and I'm excited to pick things up. So I did it. I finished this one. Yay. I realized as I was going through this was actually a gift from my friend Teresa. Like, it's a birthday gift, so I'm thinking it's been a couple of years at least. So I finally did it. I read a book I was gifted. So I did it. Yay. I don't really have any other thoughts on that, which means it's time to pick up the next book. And I think I've decided to go with Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. I thought about being at the Nightingale next, but I feel like this is the vibe I'm in, you know? It's not super long. It is about a little over 400 pages, 418 pages. And I want to get back in this world. I really want to get back into the vibe of this. I feel like I was really, really into the first two books. I mean, it's the first book and then the prequel novella collection that I read, and I really enjoyed that. And so I'm curious to see where the next step is. I haven't actually read the back to know what this is about. But we follow our main character, Selena Sardathian, at least in the first book, and she takes part of this trial to become the king's champion, aka the king's assassin. And so she ends up being really close with the prince and the head of the guard. Is that right? But in true Sarah J. Maas fashion, I am not holding hope in the relationship that happened in the first book, because she really, really likes to switch her love interests. So I'm curious to see where we're going to go here. It's been a while since the first one, but I think I remember most of what happens. But she's usually pretty good about kind of reminding you what's going on. So I don't really know where we're going. I know that the series is very sweeping, and like I'm just barely scratching the surface. And once we get into like books 3 and 4, they're going to get thicker, like really significantly thicker. These are pretty small compared to the other books. I don't own the very last one. I still don't own the very last one, so I do need to pick that one up at some point, maybe down the line. But this is fantasy. I wouldn't say fantasy romance. I would say fantasy with romantic elements. It's her YA series, so it's significantly less smutty than ACOTAR and Crescent City, which is fine with me. I really enjoy her world building and her characters. So I'm excited to dive back into her writings. I think, like, I'm not really, I feel like, out of my slump yet. So I mean, I never really got into the slump. I kind of like felt it coming on and just kind of like paused for a little bit. And then that pause, I don't know if it helped or not, but I want things that are going to be easy. And so diving back into an author that I love, even though it's a new book to me, I think it's going to be good. So I will come to you when I have made it halfway through. I'm hoping to start it tonight, because I definitely haven't started it yet. But yeah, this is the next one, and I will let you know my thoughts as we dive in. I'm excited because this is on that list. It's on my list of books to read by the end of this year. It's on there's something else. Oh, I just wanted to make some progress in this. It was on my goals of the year too. That's what I mean. And so this is going to check a lot of boxes, I think, which is exciting. So I'll come to you when I've read more and I know more about this book specifically. But I'm excited to dive back into this world because I really did enjoy the first one. Hello, I am here because I've reached almost the halfway point in Crown of Midnight. So I wanted to give you some thoughts. I am 192 pages on chapter 24. So I think Goodreads has about like 45% or so. So we are close to the halfway point. Not quite, but I think this is a good stopping point, you know? So I am like very confused about this because I just kind of feel meh at the moment about this book. I think the characters are interesting. I mean, like, we've come to love them in the first book. I kind of was obsessed with them in the first book a lot, and the first book had like a competition element that's not in this one, which I mean makes sense. I didn't expect it to be, but I just felt like we would get like bigger world building things, and we are in a sense. Like, the thing that's the most interesting to me at the moment is the prince character, Dorian. He has like this, he's got something going on magically in his life right now. And that part is fascinating to me. I'm curious to see where we're going to go with that. But like the other, and there's like a romance plot that's kind of interesting, but like that's really about it. Like, I just kind of felt meh. So I don't know if I just hyped this book way too high in my head because I liked the first one so much, or it's like I know this series is going to get better. Like, I know that like once you hit book, I've been told like the middle of the series, so like 3, 4, somewhere in there, that it's really going to take a turn. I also know that like the core and like the names that I've seen related to this book, there's like a handful that we haven't even seen yet. So I know that like there's things are coming. But I'm also like afraid to get invested in the romance because what if she changed it? I feel like I don't have a lot to say in this update, but I know based on the other books I've read by Sarah J. Maas, like the last 100 pages, I think it'll probably be less because this book is so much shorter, but like the last chunk, let's say 25% of the story, is gonna be like go, go, go. And that's when things are gonna happen and things are like shit's gonna hit the fan and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm excited for that because that's like, I know it's gonna be good. I know it's gonna lead to whatever the next book's gonna be. I know that that part is gonna like give a lot of information. I just feel like right now we're in a lull and like nothing is happening. So like baby spoilers, I think, for the next section. So just be warned for the next couple of minutes. I don't think they're a spoiler, but just in case. So the first book, Selena was chosen. That she was in this like salt mine, which is basically like a jail, and they were treated like slaves. And she's there and it's taken out of there by the prince and is put in this competition to become the king's champion, which basically just means his like personal hired assassin. And the spoiler is that she wins that competition. I feel like that's very obvious when you go into the story. You know that she's going to become this champion, but there's your spoiler warning. So in this book, she's done that, and now she's being sent on these missions by the king to kill different people. And the one that she's currently on, and he kind of has been given a bunch of names of people who are possibly in like a rebel group that's trying to overthrow him. And so he's just giving her names, and she's going to knock off these people. So the first name is someone that she has known in the past, and so she's been given a month, and she's trying to follow him and gather more information about this group because she does not think that this guy that she has been told to follow, she's like, there's no way he's part of this group. He like may know people because of his job, but there's no way he's part of this. And so like that's what she's trying to do. And then like there's some other stuff with like this ancient queen that like played a big part in the first book, and I was playing a big part with her here. And then like a couple of friends. There was a name that I know is going to come back, and that just got randomly mentioned, like thrown in there like it was nothing. And I'm curious where that's going to go because I know that she plays a role. Anyway, so I feel like plot wise, nothing's really happening. So, yeah, I think that's where I've settled, is like it's meh. I will say, this is going to sound really strange out of context. There's a door knocker who has magical properties, if you will, and he's hilarious, and I love him. He's my favorite character at the moment. I mean, we're going to get more in the second half of this. Like things are about to really get going. I just feel like the plot, nothing is happening, and I don't feel connected to these characters like I did in the first book. I wholeheartedly suspect that when I come to you next, when I finish this, I will have a different opinion. But right now, it's meh. Like right now, if I rated it, it'd be a 3-star. So I don't know. Like I feel like sometimes, especially with such a long series, you're gonna have some duds, which is fine. I'm glad it's a small dud, if you will. But yeah, I just feel underwhelmed. I think that's the best word. It's just generally I feel underwhelmed with what's happening at the moment, and so like I'm picking it up very, very sparingly. So I'm hoping that I can finish this soon, and like we'll get to a section that will be that like really fast paced, the end of the story is happening, because I need some momentum here. So that's my update, because I feel like we've reached a section where I just feel meh about it. So I'll come to you when I finish this, and like I said, I suspect I will have different opinions at that point. All right, let's see if Peanut lets me do this update. But I'm here because I finished Crown of Midnight late last night. I stayed up way too late. I am exhausted, but it was worth it. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. So right after I came to you with my last update, I think it was my day off. It was my day off. And I was at home, so I put Peanut down for a nap, and I sat and I read, right? And I immediately was enthralled. Like, I don't know what it was, if I had just like hit the lull, I had reached the point where things were happening again, or if it was because I was physically sitting down. I mean, I had the audiobook in my ear, but I was physically sitting down and reading. I don't know what it was, but things started happening and I was invested very, very quickly. So I really like this book. It got a 4-star because of how long it took in the beginning for me to kind of get invested, and because the first half of the book was just kind of meh for me. Otherwise, I think if I had enjoyed it the entirety of the book, it would have gotten a 5-star for me. I definitely had some moments. There were some reveals in this book that I didn't see coming. There were some reveals that I did see coming. And then the big thing, if you've read this book and you know, the very last page, the thing that's figured out, revealed in the very last page of this book, is something that I had seen online. Okay, there's a name that I had seen online, and I had made a theory with no information, based on seeing this name online. And my theory was correct. However, I did not, first off, I wasn't sure if my theory was correct or not, so I'm kind of happy that my theory was correct. Now, I think I was spoiled for it because, like I said, there's some names that I've seen online associated with this series before going in. But I did guess it. Yay, pat in the back for me. But also, this reveal, in my brain, if this had been a reveal, which it was, it would have happened later in the series. So I was really surprised that it happened so early in the series. But I'm also wondering if only certain people know about it. Is that cryptic enough for you? I don't know. I loved this. This was very well done. Like I said, the first half, I don't know if it was just because I wasn't focusing while I was reading. I just kind of had it on when I was doing other things, or if it really just was kind of meh. But like I said, the plot really got going in the second half. There was some characters who didn't make it to the end of the book that I'm very sad about. But it made sense for the plot. And I'm curious to see where we're going to go. This is only book 2 of 7. So we have a lot of places to cover. Also, I'm pretty sure, or maybe not, but I'm pretty sure we have the overarching plot now, the mystery, if you will, for the series, or at least maybe the first half of the series, and then it will morph into something else. But at least the beginning of the series, we have an idea of what the plot's going to be. And I'm curious because the next book is going to take place in a different location. I'm curious where we're going to go. Basically, at the end of this book, the characters that we have come to know are dispersing, and we're going to be in very different places in the next book. I really enjoyed this in the end. 4 stars feels like a good rating, and I'm interested to continue. Although I did look at the books on my shelf, and the last 2 books in the ACOTAR series, I feel like are much thicker than half of the books in the Throne of Glass series. So I'm curious about the next one. I'm thinking, because next month is Magical Readathon, we're not going to fit the 3rd one in for that. But maybe in May. Maybe we'll pick this series back up in May. I don't know. I enjoyed it. The momentum for the series is now back, so I definitely want to capitalize on that. I just am not sure when that's going to be. But I did it. I finished this one, and I'm very excited, which means we have our third and final book to talk about, which of course is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is a historical fiction. I am starting it in the hopes that I will finish it within a few days, but I honestly suspect that I will have a lot of emotions when it comes to this book because I've heard a lot of things. So again, my synopsis is going to be the same until I read it, but it basically takes place in Europe in World War II with these two sisters and how they interact with the world and the war that's going on. Kind of like, I think they react to the world war differently. One really wants to hide, be safe, and the other one wants to get involved. I'm assuming. They're just very different. Anyway, heard great things. It is about 400 pages, a little over 400 pages. So I suspect good things, but I also suspect that I will have a lot of heartbreak with this. So yeah, we're gonna dive in. It's gonna be a thick one. It's gonna be an emotional one. I'll come back to you when I've started this and I have a better idea of what it's about. I'm nervous, but like excited nervous. So let's do it. So I'm not quite halfway. I'm very, very close, but I figured I would come and tell you my initial thoughts on The Nightingale. As you can see, I have it without the cover on it. So I am chapter 18, so I'm 188 pages into this book. And the first chunk, I just kind of felt about it. It's this second portion. It's not set in parts, so it's like what I've deemed as the second part that I find more interesting. So, like I thought going in, this takes place during World War II, and it follows two sisters. It is Vianne and Isabel. The book starts in 1995 with someone. At the point where I'm at, I figured out which sister it is, I'm pretty sure, but it's clearly one of the sisters. We just don't know which one yet. And then it jumps back to 1939. And I think where I'm at, we're in 1940, 1941, somewhere in there. So, like I said, so it follows these two sisters. Vianne is older, and she has a younger daughter named Sophie. I think she's she goes to school, so I think she's about 5 or 6. And her husband is been called up to war. So the book really starts with him going off to war and her trying to figure out how to, survive. And then Isabel has been bounced around from boarding school to boarding school. Her dad doesn't really know what to do with them, so he dropped them off when they were really, really young. And Vianne got pregnant and got married and has found a stable position. And Isabel has not. So she gets bounced back to Paris with her dad, and then Paris basically gets bombed. Or I guess invaded. Bombed is not the right word, but invaded. And so her dad sends her to live with Vianne. And of course, that doesn't go according to plan. It takes her weeks to get there because she was supposed to go with one family, but then they ran out of petrol, so they had to stop the car, and then she ended up walking the whole way. It was a whole mess. It's in France, obviously, because I mentioned Paris a second ago, but so she lives in the country. Vianne lives in the country. And it really, really kicks off when Isabel gets there, and a week later, the Germans take over this small town and countryside. And one thing that happens is this German captain, basically, all over town, they are basically taking over homes and just being you can let me in and let me stay with you, but I'm going to stay here regardless. You can leave, but then you'll forfeit your house. So Vianne basically is all right, fine, I've got a guest bedroom, you can stay there. And he doesn't really hang around a whole lot. He's there, but mostly he just sleeps there. But he seems to... He's got a wife. He's got 2 kids, a kid and one on the way. He does not want this. Where I'm at, he seems to not want this war. So you've got Vianne, who's just kind of all right, fine, whatever. And then you've got Isabel, who is I don't know the age difference between them, but Isabel is 18, 19 when the story starts. And Vianne, I think, is about maybe 4 or 5 years older than her. And so the juxtaposition between these two sisters is that Isabel is very argumentative and wants to do something. So when the Germans come into town, everyone else like scatters, and she goes and stands in the middle of the street like, how dare you come into this town? And Vian has to pull her away. And then Vian is just like, I've got a daughter, I need to keep my head down, I need to keep us alive, so I will do what they want. And so you've got one person who's just trying to like survive, and then you've got another sister who is very rebellious and wants to do something for the cause, or you know, whatever. And so I had this thought this morning. If any of you have seen the Broadway show Hamilton, the juxtaposition between the characters of Aaron Burr and Hamilton is very similar to the juxtaposition between Vian and Isabel. Like, specifically, there's that part in like one of the early songs where Burr tells him to talk less, and Hamilton is like, I'm sorry, what? And that's kind of this juxtaposition vibe. I don't know why I thought of that randomly. So if you're a Hamilton person, you know any idea what I'm talking about. It's that vibe. So they're not allowed to travel without papers and all this kind of stuff. And so Isabel basically gets mixed up with people who are fighting. A rebel group, if you will, fighting, not fighting like frontline fighting, but like is secretly putting out papers and secretly doing meetings and secretly doing all these things that are hoping to take France back. So where I'm at in the story is Vian is obviously staying in the town, and this guy is living with her, and she's just trying to survive, basically. And you've got Isabel, who has decided that she needs to go back to Paris for her, she knows it's to help this group. Everyone thinks like Vian thinks that she's going back for a boy. Her dad doesn't want her around, and her dad basically thinks like this is stupid, why are you here, go back to your sister, and she like puts her foot down for the first time. So you have them in two very different positions, and it's now that they're not in the same place and butting heads all the time, I'm a little more invested. Like, I'm still incredibly invested in the story. Like, I've said this a million times, I don't enjoy books about war, specifically World War II, which is what this one's about. And so, I mean, I knew that going in, so I wasn't, like, surprised. But, like, this is not a time period that I particularly enjoy reading about. And so, the fact that I am incredibly invested with these characters, I think says a lot. I can already tell that this book is just going to give me anxiety the entire time I'm reading it, just because it's set during war, because of some of the stuff these sisters are doing, some of the stuff that they're going through, and like some of the stuff, like they're like there's a scene specifically that I'm thinking of that Vian, without realizing it, accidentally helps this captain with something that ends up hurting her best friend, and she didn't really realize that this is what was going, like the end result was going to be. And so like that whole situation, she owns up to it eventually, but like that situation was very stressful. Just Isabel always being in danger is stressful. And like, again, I'm only halfway through. I have theories about how I think this book is going to end, but I'm not 100% sure. We also just did get another flash forward to 95, in chapter 14. So I have a feeling we're going to bounce back to 95 a few times, but obviously this book is primarily about these two sisters and what happens during this war. So it's not happy. Obviously, this is not going to be a happy story. I didn't expect it to be a happy story. Based on the theories that I have for how this is going to end, I'm sure I'm going to sob like a baby. But I want to keep reading. Like, I'm very invested, and I'm curious to see where we're going to go and how the story is going to end, because like we're not in the best of spots right now, but it's going to get so much worse. Like, I can just tell. And there's something about Kristen Hanna's writing that really makes this so incredibly real. Like, she gives all of her characters so many different layers that like these feel like real people. And obviously she would have had to do an incredible amount of research for this, but like there's just something about them that I'm like, these people exist, even if they don't. So I think where I'm at right now, I definitely enjoyed the women that I read by Kristen Hanna more, and I have a feeling that's going to be the case throughout this book, just because I think I liked the story better in that one. But again, I'm only halfway through, so like we have a lot, or not even quite halfway through, we have a lot of room here. So yeah, those are my random thoughts at the moment. I'm not sure how, like, I don't know where the story is going. But like I literally read most of this yesterday. I listened to the audiobook a little bit on my way home because there was traffic, so I got stuck. So I got to listen to it more. And then I read like, let's see, I was on chapter 10 when I got home. So I'm trying to find where that is. Yeah, I read like this section in bed last night. So yeah, I'm invested. I'm curious to see where we're going to go. I have highlighted a few parts, like literally the first sentence I highlighted. A lot more at the beginning, oddly enough, but like it's a hard story based on who I think the sister is. That it's basically kind of, I mean, it's not telling the story, but like the one that we keep flashing forward to. She had a lot of change, and I'm curious what happens to make that, you know, like war changes people, but like I want to know. I want to know what's going to happen, even if it's going to break me. So that's where I'm at. I'll come back to you when I finish it, and I'll be probably a sobbing mess. But those are my initial first half thoughts. So this afternoon, I finished The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, and I'm giving it 4 stars because it was very good. It's not my favorite. I think I still liked The Women that I read by Kristen Hanna better, but it was still very good. But it is a hard book. This is rough. This has a lot of triggers. This has a lot of things that are not fun to read about. So I don't think I'll ever pick up this book again because I don't know if I could handle it a second time. But I am happy that I read this, and I know now all the things. Like I have a few things in like my notes, but I would see if you could find a comprehensive list of triggers in this because it's rough. It takes place during war, so there's a lot of death. There's a lot of very brutal death. There's torture. There's sexual assault and rape. There's like I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but like those are the ones that stick out in my brain most prominently at the moment. But it's tough, and like I always put trigger warnings on books and kind of put that out there in the world. But there's usually very little that I'm lucky that there's very little that affects me usually. There was a couple of times in this book that I almost had to put it down because there was a few things that like really, a few situations, a few moments that really affected me, and I was just very taken aback. So like this is not easy. This is an incredibly brutal, difficult story to tell, to read, to know that this actually happened to people. And like I swear every time I like read something about World War II, there's another atrocity that I didn't know happened that I learn about, and it's just horrible. It's horrific. It's terrible. But this was a good book because it was able to take these 2 sisters who are very opposing in dynamics and show how war affects them, impacts them, changes who they are, changes their lives. And I think I told you I really liked the how it would bump kind of randomly go back to the present, which was 1995, and you're definitely in one of these sisters' minds, but you're not sure who it is until the very end. Like, I think I came to you when I came to you last, I was like, I know which sister it was. And then every time we saw afterwards, I kept switching my answer. I kept second guessing myself. And I didn't know until the very, very end which sister we were actually following. And I also was like, it got to the last, I think it was the last hour of my audiobook, so probably the last 50 pages or so, and I was like, I haven't cried. Now there was definitely some moments where like things affected me and I disassociated a little bit because I couldn't handle those situations, specifically surrounding children. Like there's a lot of stuff surrounding children in this book, and so those were really, really tough to read about. But I didn't cry because I was like, I don't know, maybe I just won't. Maybe I'm just not feeling this book. And then I listened to the last hour of audiobook on the way home today, and I sobbed the entire ride home. There's just a lot of situations at the very end that really impacted me. So, well, I'm really glad I read this. Well, I really liked the story that was being told. This is not an enjoyable book, if that makes sense. Like, there are books that like you were really happy and that exist and you really liked reading, but it wasn't fun to read, and that's what this was. So while this was a very, very tough book to get to, I will not forget it anytime soon. It will definitely be one that sticks in my memory. I understand why people enjoy it and are really impacted by it. I did find out that the Nightingale is actually the sister's last name is French for the nightingale, or like means the nightingale in French, and it's also the code name of the sister who is doing things in the war, Isabel, the younger one. I think it's interesting because it's not only just like the war as a whole, it's specifically the French version of events. And it's really tough. It's really tough. But I did it. So I've completed all 3 books that I set out to read in this video, and I've really enjoyed all of them. I think the lowest one was Beautiful Stranger. The very first one I gave 3.5 stars. But that's still a good rating, so overall really good. And also, when I was looking back at these 3 books, I realized another thing that connects them is that they were all gifted to me by someone. Beautiful Stranger was gifted by Teresa. Crown of Midnight was gifted by my best friend Lauren, and then The Nightingale was actually gifted by my mother-in-law after she read it. So this became the books that were gifted as well. Well, this is definitely not the happiest ending because of the book that I read. I'm really glad that I did this. I'm really glad that we had a few more books ticked off the list of books to read before I turn 30. I hope you guys enjoyed this next edition. Based on where we are in the year, I would love to get at least one more done before I actually turn 30. And then we may see a few more after I turn 30, just to see if I can continue to get through the list, but we'll see. My hope is to do at least one more edition in this vlog series. So if there's a specific book, like I think I've linked up above the video of the 30 books, if there's a specific book that you would like for me to read in that vlog or in a vlog in the future, let me know. I'd love to know what you are interested in seeing. But I think that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please let me know all of your bookish thoughts down below if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in this video, or if there are books that you have on a list like this. Let me know your thoughts on those. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'll be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links. So go check all that out, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.